Chapter 21. She is so busy. You are listening at novelful.audio. Yi Xiaowu, mid-bite on a steamed bun, piped up, "Sue's gone to the bus station to sell tea eggs." Zhou Jinchuan glanced at the tea eggs on the table, nodded, and didn't say anything else. After breakfast, he did the dishes and hung around with the kids for a bit. Yi Xiaowu, sensing he was distracted, said, "Uncle Zhou, go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll watch my sister and do my homework." Zhou Jinchuan nodded and headed toward the base. Around lunchtime, worried the kids wouldn't have anything to eat, he came back, but the boys said they'd already eaten. "Where's Sue?" "She just left. Off to sell tea eggs again." "Nope, sold out this morning. She went to the next village to buy eggs from an old lady. She left some food for you. It's in the pot." Zhou Jinchuan thought. He really wasn't there to eat, but Zhou Jinchuan, not there to eat, washed the dishes and tidied up the kitchen after he finished the meal. Before heading out, he told the kids, "When she gets back, tell her not to save any food for me tonight." That evening, Zhou Jinchuan made a point of stopping by after dinner at the cafeteria. He walked in to find the place empty. Even Yi Nuanyuan was gone. "Where's Muan Muan?" Sue took her to Aunt Zheng's to learn how to mend clothes. Zhou Jinchuan thought, that woman's always hustling. He looked down at Yi Xiaowu's pants. There were obvious patches on the lower legs. The colors were close, but the patches were still noticeable. Zhou Jinchuan frowned almost imperceptibly. "Xiao Wu, I'm taking you and Nuanyuan to town tomorrow. Time to get you some new clothes for the summer." The kid was growing fast, and he'd been too busy to notice. Yi Xiaowu shook his head, refusing immediately. "Nah, Sue just made us new clothes. These pants aren't ripped at the top, and she just patched the bottoms. Sue says it's a patchwork style." Zhou Jinchuan chuckled. "Patchwork style, huh?" "Yeah, Sue says, don't worry about what anyone else thinks. If you're confident, you can rock patchwork like it's designer. Sue also says we gotta spend money smart and save where we can. Clothes can be old, but not food. She says Nuanyuan and I are scrawny and need meat and eggs every day, or we won't grow up tall. Even though my clothes are patched, everyone at school is jealous of the big meat buns I brought this morning. After chowing down on those, I don't even care about the patches." Zhou Jinchuan noticed the kid kept name-dropping Sue. He was talking a lot more than usual, seemed more mature, and definitely more confident. Knowing Sue E was the reason, he felt a warmth spread through him. "Is she always this busy?" "Always. Uncle Zhou, you seen the garden out back? She's got to tend it and water it every day. Says when it grows good, we won't have to buy vegetables. She cleans the house every day, cooks 3 meals, and takes care of my sister. She's usually too busy for tea eggs. When I found out you were back, I quickly went to do my own business." Yi Xiaowu was singing Su Yi's praises, partly because he really felt that way, and partly because he didn't want Zhou Jinchuan to think badly of her for never being around. Finding someone who actually cared about him and Nuanyuan wasn't easy, and Yi Xiaowu didn't want her to leave. Zhou Jinchuan picked up on it. "Good to see you doing well. Has anyone been giving her trouble lately?" Yi Xiaowu then blurted out the story of Su Yi running into Qin Yunfeng and Bai Ruolan in the yard, and how they accused her of being a thief who stole kids and stuff, and then, how Qin Yunfeng came to see Su Yi and got chased off. "Those two are real bullies. Sue's too nice to stand up to them. Uncle Zhou, you can't let them run her off." Su Shanshan, who lives next door, thought to herself. Zhou Jinchuan nodded. "Don't worry, I'll handle it." Zhou Jinchuan didn't waste any time. The next day, Qin Yunfeng and Bai Ruolan got summoned to his office. In Bai Ruolan's mind, Zhou Jinchuan was practically a god, and he never spoke to the female comrades alone in the army, so, getting a summons to his office sent her ego skyrocketing. She accidentally let it slip to everyone in the art troupe, then practically skipped away. But walking downstairs, she saw Qin Yunfeng. "What are you doing here?" "Captain Zhou called me." Bai Ruolin calmed down after imagining herself being doused with a bucket of cold water. Could that Sui have snitched to Captain Zhou? Qin, could it be about what happened last time? Did Sui tell Captain Zhou something she shouldn't have? Qin Yunfeng frowned. Captain Zhou is fair. He wouldn't make a big deal out of something like that. Turns out, their read on Zhou Jinchuan was way off. As soon as they walked into the office, Zhou Jinchuan tossed 2 self-criticisms onto the table. These are your self-criticisms? You mean every word? If you don't like the organization's punishment, you can appeal to the authorities or, get out. That they both jumped at Zhou Jinchuan's anger. Bai Ruolin stammered, Captain Zhou, you got the wrong idea about what happened. Don't just listen to Su Yi's side of the story. Besides, Deputy Company Commander Qin and I were worried about the kid's safety at the time, so we wanted to ask about it publicly. Zhou Jinchuan looked up, his eyes narrowing. I said self-criticism. Is that what this is? But since you brought up what happened, let me make something clear. Su Yi was specially approved to stay at the base to take care of the family of a fallen soldier. If you mess with her, you're messing with the family of a fallen soldier. And I approved her staying here, so think about that. Bai Ruolin started to argue, but Qin Yunfeng cut her off with a look. Captain Zhou, we get it about Comrade Su. It won't happen again. But wasn't this self-criticism originally with Political Commissar Wang? Zhou Jinchuan scoffed. You trying to say I'm sticking my nose where it doesn't belong? Well, let me tell you, the higher-ups want strict adherence to military discipline, especially personal conduct. I'll pay attention to whatever I damn well please. Qin Yunfeng stared, shocked, seeing those intense eyes. He realized this wasn't the Captain Zhou he thought he knew. He'd assumed Zhou Jinchuan was above all this petty stuff. How naive. Captain Zhou wasn't just a nice guy, and any man who reached this position was going to have a tough side. Qin Yunfeng caved. Understood, Captain Zhou. We'll go back and rewrite them. Get out. Chapter 22 Venting for Her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhou Jinchuan watched them go, a flicker of annoyance crossing his brow. Those two were trouble and shouldn't be in the army. Normally, he'd have kicked them out already, but Su Yi had suggested they needed to stay, especially Bai Ruolin, who was still useful somehow. He didn't quite get it, but he trusted her judgment. Besides, Bai Ruolin didn't have much pull in the troop anyway. As for Qin Yunfeng, he'd just keep an eye on him and not give him any important assignments, to avoid any more screw-ups. As soon as they were outside, Bai Ruolin grabbed Qin Yunfeng. Why didn't you defend yourself back there? He was totally buying Su Yi's side of the story. Qin Yunfeng shook his head. I don't think Su Yi's that powerful. Probably Captain Zhou just doesn't like us after what happened before. Even though Qin Yunfeng suspected Zhou Jinchuan was taking Su Yi's side, he didn't want to believe it. They were interrupted by a familiar voice. Hey, are you guys talking about me? What do you mean I'm not that powerful? Su Yi had deliberately timed her visit to Wang Zhengwei when Zhou Jinchuan was in his office. She wanted Wang Zhengwei to write her a letter of introduction or something, so she wouldn't feel like a drifter every time she went out. With Zhou Jinchuan around, Wang Zhengwei would be more likely to cooperate. She'd run into these two in the hallway as soon as she arrived. They looked like they'd just come from Zhou Jinchuan's office, looking as miserable as if their whole family had died. Su Yi was thrilled. Getting chewed out. Bai Ruolin, already furious, was now convinced Su Yi was behind it. She wanted to yell, but she was afraid Zhou Jinchuan would hear her, so she just glared. Qin Yunfeng was quiet, but his tone was indifferent. Su Yi, what are you doing here? Su Yi scoffed. Visiting Political Commissar Wang. By the way, did you two pay him back the money you owed him? Bai Ruolin stomped her foot and stormed off. Qin Yunfeng, thinking about Zhou Jinchuan's attitude, looked at Su Yi again. Was Zhou Jinchuan really that angry because of Su Yi? Was there something going on between them? Bai Ruolin, noticing Qin Yunfeng hadn't followed her, turned around and saw him looking at Su Yi. Her anger flared. Deputy Captain Qin, didn't you say you had something to do? Qin Yunfeng snapped out of it and hurried after her. Sui rolled her eyes, turned, and knocked on Political Commissar Wang's door. As expected, Political Commissar Wang wrote her a certificate this time, but after writing it, he said, "Comrade Su, I knew you were a good person the first time I met you. You've really caught Captain Zhou's eye. Are you planning to leave?" Sui gave him a fake smile. Political Commissar Wang, you're too kind. I don't know about catching anyone's eye. Captain Zhou's just letting me stay because he cares about the children of martyrs. Political Commissar Wang's mouth twitched. Right, they're the children of our martyrs. You need to take good care of them. Don't worry, Political Commissar Wang, I will. Political Commissar Wang's eyelids twitched. Was he getting old? Well, Comrade Su, one more thing. Since you're staying, try not to bring up the personal stuff with Deputy Company Commander Qin and Comrade Bai. You three should get along. Sui blinked. That's what I want, but they don't really like me. They're always causing trouble. Last time in the compound, they said I stole the child. Just now I met them in the hallway, and I was friendly and asked if they had paid you back. But they glared and stomped their feet. It scared me. I'm just shy, so if they act like that, I'll never say hi to them again. Political Commissar Wang felt a nerve twitch in his face. Comrade Su, don't worry, I'll talk to them when I get a chance. Okay. I feel relieved, thank you. I won't bother you anymore. After Sui left Political Commissar Wang's office, she paused by Zhou Jinchuan's door. She was curious about what Zhou Jinchuan had wanted with those two. She didn't dare ask, so she couldn't help but peek inside, before she could see anything. Come in. Sui reluctantly went in, greeting him awkwardly, Captain Zhou. Zhou Jinchuan looked at the papers on his desk without looking up. What's up? Sui coughed. Nothing, I was just getting a certificate from Political Commissar Wang, and I happened to be passing by. So, Sui made small talk. Captain Zhou, are you going on a mission soon? Zhou Jinchuan finally looked up. I don't think I'll be going anywhere for a while. Sui nodded. That's good. By the way, Captain Zhou, I wanted to ask you something. Go ahead. Sui quickly told him about selling tea eggs, adding. Don't worry, Captain Zhou. I'll only be gone for an hour or two each day and be back as soon as I'm done. I won't neglect the kids. Zhou Jinchuan had already heard about the tea eggs from Yi Xiaowu. He wasn't surprised, and Sui always took Yi Nuanyuan with her, never leaving her alone. Compared to Sister Lu, who only came to cook and didn't care about the rest of the time, this was much better. Zhou Jinchuan thought for a moment and nodded. Okay. Just make sure the kids get 3 meals a day. I'll check on them often. Sui was overjoyed. Thank you, Captain Zhou. We're having noodles with soybean paste tonight. Want to join us? Zhou Jinchuan grunted. Sure. Great, you're busy, I'll get going. Doesn't he like noodles? As a human being, you really can't be fake. Zhou Jinchuan. Chapter 23 being reported. You are listening at novelful.audio. Armed with the identity certificate from Political Commissar Wang and Zhou Jinchuan's okay, Sui threw herself into selling tea eggs, being the first in town to offer them, and with the eggs being a tasty treat, people flocked to her stall whenever they came to town. Sui's tea egg business boomed. In less than 10 days, she'd raked in over 20 yuan. Tea eggs were a guaranteed moneymaker. The ingredients were easy to find, the preparation was simple, all you needed was a pot, and you were in business. It was a surefire takeaway idea that couldn't fail. To avoid trouble with the bus station, Sui even slipped an egg a day to the gatekeeper as a thank you. The guard, in turn, turned a blind eye to her stall outside the entrance, considering it a perk of the job. Meanwhile, after Bai Ruolin stormed off, she spent 2 sleepless nights rewriting her self-criticism. Terrified but desperate, she filled it with insincere heartfelt words, gagging as she wrote. The next day, dressed to impress, she planned to deliver it to Zhou Jinchuan solo, pointedly avoiding Qin Yunfeng. But Xie Xiaojun intercepted her at the door. Captain Zhou's too busy to deal with it. Just give it to Political Commissar Wang. By Ruolan's smile vanished. She nearly choked with frustration. On her way back to the dorm, she spotted Sui walking out with a heavy basket. Suspicious, Bai Ruolan trailed her to see what was up. She followed her into town and watched her set up shop at the bus station. Hiding behind a car, Bai Ruolan spied on Suyi's tea-egg hustle. A plan began to form in her mind. She blamed Sui entirely for Zhou Jinchuan's public dressing down. Now, she saw her chance for revenge even though Zhou Jinchuan was keeping an eye on her and Qin Yinfeng. She could get someone else to do the dirty work. Bai Ruolan thought of Sister Lu, who'd had no prior dealings with Sui, and headed to her place. Ever since the incident, Sister Lu had been holed up at home, feigning illness. Being publicly humiliated by Sui and reprimanded by Zhou Jinchuan had crushed her. Then, she'd had a fight with her husband, airing their dirty laundry to the whole neighborhood. Sister Lu felt like she couldn't show her face in the courtyard. Plus, her 2 kids' front teeth had been knocked out, making them look even more pitiful. She'd cursed Sui a million times in her head. She was doing laundry when she heard a knock. It was Bai Ruolan, a stranger. "Comrade Bai, what brings you here?" Bai Ruolan held up a bag of fruit. "Sister Lu, I heard you weren't feeling well. I was in the area and thought I'd stop by." Sister Lu was confused, but she couldn't resist the sight of the fruit. She quickly invited Bai Ruolan in. "I'm doing better now. Thanks for thinking of me, Comrade Bai. You got a raw deal the other day. I wanted to stick up for you, but I'm not good with words. No one would have believed me anyway." Bai Ruolan smiled and sat down. "It's okay. It was all a misunderstanding, and it's been cleared up. Comrade Su found a solution, and Comrade Qin and I are happy for her. We just felt bad for you, Sister Lu. I've been trying to convince Sui to apologize to you, but she's still got a bone to pick with me and won't listen." Sister Lu felt a surge of self-pity. The resentment she'd been holding in for weeks finally found an outlet. Like she'd found a kindred spirit, she launched into a tirade against Sui. Seeing how deeply Sister Lu hated Sui, Bai Ruolan saw her opening. She casually mentioned Suyi's tea-egg business at the bus station. "Comrade Qin and I don't think she should be running a business. Even though things aren't as strict as they used to be, if they really wanted to, they could shut her down for illegal vending. Sister Lu, what if she gets reported and arrested? Comrade Qin and I wouldn't be able to face her family." Sister Lu got the hint immediately. After politely seeing Bai Ruolan out, she locked the door and marched straight to the town office. "I want to report something. Someone's been selling homemade tea eggs at the bus station for days." That the officials weren't exactly thrilled with the upheaval in the capital. Their own office might be next on the chopping block. They tried to brush Sister Lu off. "We'll look into it." But Sister Lu wouldn't let it go. "You need to go now, or they'll be gone. People like that are a blight on society. You need to take care of them." Since the new regulations hadn't arrived yet, the officials had to follow procedure. They ordered 2 people to go to the bus station and arrest the vendor. Just then, Sui sold her last tea egg. As she packed up, she saw Sister Lu storming toward her, kicking up dust. Sui knew that Sister Lu was trouble, and she was right to be wary. Sure enough, she spotted 2 comrades with red armbands trailing behind. Sui knew what was up. She grabbed her tools of the trade and bolted. Sister Lu, winded from running, pointed at Sui's back. "That's her. Don't let her get away." The 2 comrades took off after her. Sui dashed into the bus station, ran a few steps, and dove into an alley through the back door. She'd done her homework. She knew she needed an escape route in case someone came after her. Thanks to her egg-a-day arrangement with the security guard, he told her about this shortcut. It led straight to the employee's family compound inside the bus station. Once inside, Sui quickly hid the pot of tea eggs and her headscarf. Emerging from the compound, she was no longer a tea egg seller, but a girl carrying a basket to buy groceries. But Sister Lu was determined to get Sui arrested, and she chased after her. When she lost her, she dragged the 2 red armbands along the street, looking for her. Then, she spotted Sui in front of the grocery store. Sister Lu charged. There she is. Comrade. Arrest her. Sui glanced at her, pretending not to know anything. Aunt Lu, I'm just here to buy vegetables. Why are you dragging me? Stop pretending. The comrades are here. You can't escape this time. Chapter 24, Dog bites dog and gets a mouthful of fur. You are listening at novelful.audio. Sui glanced at the two officers, her face etched with confusion. Officers, what am I accused of doing? The officers exchanged a look. Sui seemed genuinely baffled. Did we get the wrong person? One seemed to ask with his eyes. Ma'am, we received a report that you were selling tea eggs in front of the bus station. Is that true? Sui acted surprised and quickly shook her head. That's crazy talk. I'm just here to buy groceries. Why would I be selling tea eggs? She always wore a scarf that covered most of her face when she went to the bus station anyway. Even if they did recognize her, she wouldn't sweat it. You needed to catch someone red-handed to make an arrest. Sure enough, the two officers looked at her, then at Sister Lu. Are you sure you have the right person? She doesn't have any tea eggs or the equipment to sell them. Yeah, we need evidence when we make an arrest. Sister Lu panicked and shoved her hand into Sui's basket. They have to be in here. She's probably hiding them. Officers, don't let this girl fool you. Sister Lu stopped abruptly. Her frantic search had turned up nothing. How can this be? I definitely. Sui turned to the officers. Officers, I know she doesn't like me, but I didn't expect her to try to frame me like this. I can't believe she's doing this. Aunt Lu, stop causing trouble for me. These officers have work to do. Is it fun for you to mess with me like this? The officers frowned. We're going to need you to come down to the station for questioning, one of them said to Sister Lu. Sister Lu threw her hands up. You saw someone running from the bus station entrance. I'm not lying. And I'm not the only one who knows about her little side hustle. Go ask around. Sui pursed her lips. This Sister Lu is a tough nut to crack. Just as she was about to speak, a jeep pulled up. It was Zhou Jinchuan behind the wheel. The officers clearly knew Zhou Jinchuan and rushed over to greet him. Captain Zhou. What a coincidence seeing you here. Zhou Jinchuan gestured toward Sui. I'm here looking for someone. Sui lit up when she saw Zhou Jinchuan and hurried over, relieved. Captain Zhou, what are you doing here? Nuan said you'd been gone a long time, so she asked me to come find you. Sui smiled. I just finished buying groceries and was heading back when these officers stopped me. They said someone reported me for running an illegal business. The officers waved their hands dismissively. It's a misunderstanding. This woman made the report. They pointed at Sister Lu. I know her, she lives in our compound. They had a little tiff recently. It was nothing serious. I see. Then we won't keep you. I'll have a word with this woman before letting her go. Sounds good. Sui, freed from the situation, quickly hopped in the car with Zhou Jinchuan. Captain Zhou, thank you so much. If you hadn't shown up, I don't know how long I would have been stuck there. Zhou Jinchuan frowned. Don't do that anymore. If you get caught, I can't help you. If you need money, just tell me. I can loan you some. Sui rolled her eyes. It's not about the money. I can't just sit at home and do nothing. I need something to do. Besides, I heard they might start allowing small businesses in Shanghai and Beijing soon, so I thought I'd try it out. Zhou Jinchuan nodded. That's true, but it won't be popular around here for a while. If no one reports you, fine. But if someone does, you're going to have trouble. Zhou Jinchuan glanced at her basket. Speaking of which, how did you get away? Where's your equipment? Sui decided to tell him about her escape route and hidden equipment. Zhou Jinchuan smirked. You came prepared to sell tea eggs. Hey, I can't help it. I'm not alone here, I have to look out for myself, right? Zhou Jinchuan's expression turned thoughtful. He didn't say anything more. He drove her straight to her door. Sui, grateful for the rescue, invited him in before getting out of the car. Captain Zhou, do you want to stay for lunch? Zhou Jinchuan, remembering the non-invitation from last time, cleared his throat. No, I have other things to do. I'll see you around. Okay. Oh, wait. I made mung bean cake this morning. Let me grab some for you to take home. Sui quickly darted back inside. She came out a few moments later with a small box of mung bean cake. Captain Zhou, you're always so busy. You can have one of these when you get hungry. Zhou Jinchuan was stunned for a moment. She's actually offering this. He reached out and took the box. Thank you. Then he drove off. Meanwhile, the officers lectured and criticized Sister Lu in public before releasing her. As soon as she got back to the compound, Sister Lu stormed over to Bai Ruolan's dorm. She'd spent all morning trying to get Sui in trouble and hadn't even scratched her. She was now certain Bai Ruolan had set her up. The person at the bus station couldn't have been Sui. How else could she, a newbie, have gotten away so quickly? It was all her fault for being so gullible. She'd gone to report it without checking things out first. So, Sister Lu ran to the dorm and started yelling at the top of her lungs. Bai Ruolan, get down here. I'm not finished with you. Bai Ruolan didn't want anyone to know she and Sister Lu were connected. She wasn't planning on going down, but seeing her yelling non-stop, she had to sneak downstairs. Shoo, Sister Lu, don't yell here. I think you're feeling guilty, aren't you? I'm going to shout here. You really screwed me over today. Sister Lu unloaded all her anger on Bai Ruolan. Bai Ruolan begged her to leave, but couldn't get her to move. Qin Yunfeng, hearing the commotion, rushed over. Seeing Bai Ruolan apologizing tearfully, she tried to calm Sister Lu down. Sister Lu, Comrade Bai is young. If she's offended you, I'll apologize on her behalf. But this isn't the place to talk. If people hear us, they'll laugh at us. Let's go somewhere more private and talk it out. Sister Lu scoffed. Fine, I'm not afraid of you. The three of them had only taken a few steps when Zhou Jinchuan drove by. Bai Ruolan was terrified. She just hoped Zhou Jinchuan wouldn't see them and would keep going. Sister Lu was also scared and clammed up. She didn't bother staying with Bai Ruolan and ran off. Zhou Jinchuan pulled up in front of the two women, rolled down the window, gave them a warning look, and drove away. Chapter 25. He never uses the back door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as Zhou Jinchuan was gone, Bai Ruolan nearly collapsed from fright. Luckily, Qin Yunfeng caught her. What's going on? Ruolan, what did you do to piss off Sister Lu? And what was that about reporting Sui? Bai Ruolan knew she couldn't hide it. I just let something slip. I didn't think Sister Lu would be so reckless. She ran straight to the police to report Sui. It backfired, and she got herself in trouble. Qin Yunfeng frowned. Ruolan, didn't I tell you to lay low and not cause any trouble until the spring festival? Is that really too much to ask? Bai Ruolan gritted her teeth. It's not like I wanted to cause trouble. You forgot we had to rewrite that self-criticism last time. I'm not just going to let that go. Qin Yunfeng gave her a warning look. You need to let it go. Ruolan, did you see the way Captain Zhou looked at us? He must know what happened today, so watch yourself. Qin Yunfeng turned to leave, but Bai Ruolan grabbed his arm. Brother Qin, I messed up. I promise I won't bother her again. Don't shut me out. I'm only here because of you. Qin Yunfeng saw she was about to cry and felt a surge of irritation, but he quickly suppressed it. All right. I won't shut you out. Just don't be so impulsive. Just sit tight until after the spring festival, and then I'll make sure she's stuck in her hometown. Okay, I promise. The news about Sister Lu chewing out by Ruolin in the dorm spread like wildfire through the compound. Nobody knew exactly what had happened, but it was strange to see two people who never interacted suddenly get into such a huge feud, and the fact that Bai Ruolin didn't dare say a word while Sister Lu was yelling, hands on hips, meant she must have done something wrong. When Sister Zheng and Sister Yao told Su Yi about it, she was out watering her vegetables. Hearing their story, it all clicked, *that's** why Aunt Lu had been hiding out lately. Bai Ruolin must have been the one pulling the strings. Well, she got what she deserved. Su Yi brought out water and melon seeds for Sister Zheng and Sister Yao, and the three of them sat together for a while. "Su, I guess you can't go to the bus station now, right? Are you still selling tea eggs?" The two had seen how well Su Yi's tea egg business was doing and were thinking of starting their own side hustles, but after hearing about the report to the police, they both dropped the idea. Su Yi was worried about it too. "Probably not this year. But I've heard big cities will be totally opened up by the end of the year, so maybe after New Year's it'll be safe. It's so tough to find a way to make some extra money these days." Sister Zheng and Sister Yao could see the worry on Su Yi's face and felt for her. After all, Su Yi was a young woman on her own. It wasn't like them, staying here with their families and a man to rely on. Plus, babysitting wasn't a long-term solution, and things could change at any time. They couldn't help but worry about Su Yi's future. As they were talking, Sister Yao's eyes lit up. "Hey, I heard yesterday they're hiring at the cafeteria. You should give it a shot." Sister Zheng chimed in, "The cafeteria's a great gig. You don't have to worry about food, and it's right here in the compound. It wouldn't stop you from taking care of the kids. And with your cooking skills, you'd be a shoo-in." Su Yi was interested. "I just don't know if they have any requirements for who they hire." It was the military compound's cafeteria, after all. The background checks must be intense. Sister Yao had an idea. "Yeah, they probably do, but if Captain Zhou could put in a good word for you, you'd be set." Su Yi thought about Zhou Jinchuan and shook her head. "Captain Zhou's too busy to worry about something like that. And he didn't seem like the kind of guy who would pull strings." Sister Zheng tried to persuade her. "It's worth asking, right? What if he says yes? Besides, it's not like you don't deserve it. Your cooking's way better than those cafeteria cooks. It'd be good for everyone if you worked there." "Yeah, if you get the job, I'm done cooking. I'll just take the kids to the cafeteria every day." Su Yi hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll ask him." After they left, Su Yi checked the time and called Zhou Jinchuan. When he saw her number, Zhou Jinchuan thought something had happened at home, but all she said was, "It's getting hot out. I'm making cold noodles for lunch. Are you coming home?" Zhou Jinchuan seemed to like fried noodles the last time she made them. Su Yi was using this as an excuse to bring up the cafeteria job, but Zhou Jinchuan turned her down without a second thought. "No, I'll just eat at the cafeteria. You and the kids go ahead." Su Yi sighed. "Okay then." She was about to hang up when Zhou Jinchuan asked, "Is everything all right?" After all, this was the first time she had called to ask him to come home for lunch, and the hesitation in her voice made it sound like something was up. Su felt like she had to say something. "I wanted to ask if you thought I could apply for a job at the cafeteria. Summer vacation's coming up, and I'd feel better with Xiao Wu home with Nuan. Plus, I heard the cafeteria has shifts, so I'd have some free time. Once summer's over, it'll be time for Nuanyuan to start preschool. I could handle working and taking care of them." Zhou Jinchuan hummed. "Okay. I said before, as long as you make them 3 meals a day, you can do what you want with the rest of your time." Su Yi cleared her throat. "I'm just worried I won't get an interview with my background, so I was wondering if maybe." Zhou Jinchuan understood instantly. "You want me to pull some strings?" Su Yi, he didn't need to put it that bluntly. "I'm just asking. If it's a problem, forget it." Zhou Jinchuan was silent for a moment. "Comrade Su, I'm afraid I can't do that for you. If you really want the job, apply for the interview yourself. I trust that hiring at the military cafeteria is open, fair, and just. After hanging up, Sue took a deep breath. Fine, don't help. And there was no need to call her comrade Sue. Chapter 26. It's like calling my wife. You are listening at novelful.audio. Even though Sue had braced herself, she'd really just made the call on a whim. Rejection was expected. Still, Sue couldn't help feeling a twinge of disappointment when she called. Xiao had just gotten home from school. Seeing Sue bummed out, he jumped in to cheer her up. Hey, don't sweat it, Sister Sue. Uncle Xiao isn't into favors, and he doesn't like people trying to get them through him. Like, when I ran for class president at the beginning of the year, I wanted him to drive me to school so I could show off to the teacher. He saw right through it and not only said no, but he gave me a whole lecture. But I won the election fair and square later. You can do it too, Sister Sue. Yi Xiao's words brightened Sue's mood. Wow! I didn't know you were class president, Xiao, that's awesome. Hee, it's not a big deal. Hey, Sister Sue, since Uncle Xiao isn't coming back, can we still have cold noodles for lunch? Sue laughed. Of course. I'll go start kneading the dough now. I'll help. Meanwhile, after Zhou Jinchuan hung up the phone, he quietly opened the lunchbox on the corner of his desk. A few mung bean cakes sat inside. Sue had given them to him a few days ago. When he was swamped and missed a meal, he'd grab a couple. They were a quick snack, and the taste was great, not as dry as the ones from the store. Zhou Jinchuan picked one up and popped it in his mouth. His resolve wavered a little. Had he been too blunt just now? Being around tough guys all day, he was used to getting straight to the point. He wasn't exactly smooth with the ladies. Oh well, he was right anyway. He closed the lid and was about to get back to work when Lu Changjing walked in and spotted the mung bean cakes. His eyes darted to the lunch box on the table. What's that you got there? Lu Changjing opened it and saw the mung bean cakes. He frowned. What's with you eating these all of a sudden? Zhou Jinchuan smirked. Does food have a gender now? True. I'm starving, let me try one. Lu Changjing reached for a cake. Hey, you know, these are good. Didn't your friend Xiao Su make these? Zhou Jinchuan didn't respond, which Lu Changjing took as a yes. Lu Changjing grew even more curious. When can I come over to your place for dinner? I've been asking forever. Come on, give me an answer. Zhou Jinchuan pursed his lips. No need to think about it. Lu Changjing felt like a cat was scratching at him. If you won't let me come, I'm just going to drop by and say hi myself. I've been hearing a lot about her since I got back. I'm intrigued. Zhou Jinchuan shot him a warning look. I told you, she's not a spy. And she's a lesbian, so it's not appropriate for you to go there. Lu Changjing wouldn't give up. Then let's all go together. I haven't seen the kid in ages. I can pick up some stuff and go visit, right? Zhou Jinchuan looked down, thinking. After a moment, he changed his tune. You go on out. I'll make a call and ask. Alright, I'm going. Call quick. Seeing he'd finally cracked, Lu Changjing bolted next door to find Xie Xiaojun. He couldn't wait to spill the tea. Xiao Xie, something's up with this old Zhou, don't you think? Xie Xiaojun disagreed. Captain Lu, why do you always think something's up with everyone? That's not what I mean. It's just, he's acting weird. He's been different since I got back. He was practically hiding his food. And when I asked to come over, he hesitated and said he had to ask permission. And he was all sneaky about making that call, like he was calling his wife. I think he's just been single too long and can't hold out anymore. It's time he found a wife and settled down. Xie Xiaojun couldn't help but smile. Captain Zhou wasn't exactly old, but the pressure to get married was definitely on. He was getting calls from Beijing about it. Sue was eating noodles with the kids when Zhou Jinchuan called. She thought maybe the cafeteria interview had changed, but he just wanted to know if he could bring Xie Xiaojun and Captain Lu over for dinner. Sue had never met Captain Lu, but Xia Xiaojun had mentioned him as a good friend of Zhou Jinchuan's. She agreed right away. Sure, I'll go grocery shopping after dinner. After all, her boss was asking a favor, what could she do? Hearing her say yes, Zhou Jinchuan quickly added, no need to buy anything. I'll have Xia Xiaojun drop it off. Sui said, okay, and skipped the pleasantries. What do you guys want to eat? Zhou Jinchuan paused. Can you cook Sichuan food? I have a book about Sichuan and Chongqing culture that has some recipes. If you need it, Sui cut him off. Nah, I got it. Then she rattled off a few dishes. Boiled fish, twice cooked pork, fish-flavored shredded pork, mapo tofu, is that enough? Zhou Jinchuan hummed. Enough. Alright, remember to get what you need. After hanging up, Sui was still confused. Zhou Jinchuan hadn't been home much for dinner lately, and she hadn't invited him, so why the sudden dinner invite? And why Sichuan food specifically? As far as she knew, no one in their group was from Sichuan. Whatever, she hadn't had spicy food in a while. Might as well. On the other side, Zhou Jinchuan called Lu Chongjing and Xia Xiaojun over after he hung up. It's settled. Xiao Xie is coming with us tonight. Lu Chongjing and Xia Xiaojun exchanged knowing smiles. Zhou Jinchuan coughed lightly. If you guys aren't busy this afternoon, you should go get the groceries early and have Xiao Xie drop them off first. Zhou Jinchuan tossed Lu Chongjing a list he'd just written. Lu Chongjing looked at it and gaped. Hold on, I thought you were treating. I'm buying the food. Zhou Jinchuan shrugged. If you don't want to eat, forget it. No, we'll go get it right now. Chapter 27. A man who says one thing and means another. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, Xia Xiaojun dropped off the dishes he'd prepped for Sui. Knowing the kids couldn't handle too much spice, Sui had already made rice. The three of them ate together, then she started prepping a few dishes for Zhou Jinchuan's dinner. Zhou Jinchuan, Lu Chongjing, and Xia Xiaojun didn't arrive until after dark. Trying to avoid being seen, Lu Chongjing had been pacing, practically bursting with anticipation. The second Zhou Jinchuan knocked, he threw the door open and barged in. Sui and the kids came out. Captain Zhou. Uncle Zhou, Uncle Lu, you're here. Lu Chongjing, who hadn't seen the kids in ages, rushed over, playfully hoisting them up. Wow, you two have gotten so big. He handed them a bag of treats he'd brought. Sui took it, smiling. You must be Camp Commander Lu. The kids are always talking about you. Come on in. Lu Chongjing finally got a good look at her. He froze, doing a double take. Holy cow. Just this afternoon, he'd been boasting to Xia Xiaojun about taking care of Zhou Jinchuan. He'd come prepared for anything, but the woman in front of him blew all his expectations out of the water. He was speechless for a second. Snapping out of it, he realized something was seriously off. This woman was gorgeous, way too fair-skinned to be a country bumpkin, and how blind had Qin Yunfeng been to dump someone this beautiful for Bai Ruolin. Beauty aside, where'd she get that kind of class and poise in the backwoods? Lu Chongjing's gaze turned critical. Sui, sharp as a tack, knew exactly what he was thinking. She gave a polite nod and turned to heat up the oil in the wok. Xia Xiaojun jumped in, sleeves already rolled up. Sister Sui, let me give you a hand. Lu Chongjing's eyes bugged out. He shot Zhou Jinchuan a look. How old is this girl? Even Xia Xiaojun calls her sister. Zhou Jinchuan glared. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Even Xia Xiaojun knows that. You want a good meal? Keep your opinions to yourself, or you'll be eating somewhere else real soon. Lu Chongjing was speechless. In the kitchen, Xia Xiaojun was already on the offensive. Sister Su, Camp Commander Lu's got a sharp tongue, but don't take it personally. He's a good guy, really. He and Captain Zhou have been best buddies since middle school, followed him all the way from Beijing. They go way back. If there were any real issues, Captain Zhou wouldn't put up with it. Sui smiled. I get it. Still, something felt off. She decided to pump Xia Xiaojun for information. She grabbed a tin from the cupboard. Xiao Xia, try these mung bean cakes I just made. Tell me what you think. Xia Xiaojun grabbed two and took a bite. These are amazing. No wonder Captain Zhou hoards them. He's got them hidden away. Sui generously offered, I'll make sure you get some to take home when you leave. After chatting for a bit, Sui casually wondered why they'd suddenly decided to come over for dinner. Xia Xiaojun, completely trusting, spilled the beans. Turns out, Lu Chongjing suspected her of being a spy. Sui sucked in a breath. Okay, that explained the suspicious looks. A spy, seriously. Furious, Sui grabbed another handful of chili peppers and tossed them into the wok. Once the 4 dishes were ready, Sui sent the kids to read, leaving the 3 men to their own devices. Zhou Jinchuan didn't know what was up with Sui, but she came back from cooking mad as a hornet. Xia Xiaojun played it safe, keeping his head down and shoveling food into his mouth. Lu Chongjing, oblivious to the tension, was laser-focused on the food. He'd only heard Xia Xiaojun brag about how amazing this girl's cooking was. The reality blew the hype away. Lu Chongjing grabbed a piece of the boiled fish and popped it in his mouth. The flavor was unbelievable. A little spicy, sure, but the more it burned, the better it tasted. The 3 of them ate with gusto, chugging water between bites. Sui, ever the considerate host, kept their glasses full, but the water she gave Lu Chongjing was boiling hot. He nearly choked, sprinting to the kitchen to guzzle a bowl of cold water straight from the tank before he could breathe again. Zhou Jinchuan and Xia Xiaojun couldn't help but crack up after the meal. Zhou Jinchuan put them to work cleaning up. He knocked on Suyi's door. Come on out, I need to talk to you. Sui came out, confused. He said, I asked around at the cafeteria. The interviews are the day after tomorrow. You should head over there and see what's up. Also, if you're making Sichuan food, go easy on the chili peppers. Most people can't handle it. Sui. Captain Zhou, are you saying you put in a good word for me? Not exactly. I just asked Xia Xiaojun to sign you up. Oh, what a nice guy. Zhou Jinchuan cleared his throat. If there's nothing else, we should head back. Thanks again for dinner. After they left the yard, Lu Chongjing was still raving. I haven't eaten that well in ages. This comrade Xiao Su is pretty generous with the chili peppers, just like her personality. Zhou Jinchuan scoffed, who told you to suspect her of being a spy? You're lucky she didn't kick you to the curb. Lu Chongjing still felt a little put out. My suspicions weren't totally unfounded. Forget everything else, how can she cook such authentic Sichuan dishes if she's not from Sichuan province? Xia Xiaojun immediately jumped to Suyi's defense. I asked her about that. She said she learned from the cook at the Educated Youth Center's cafeteria when she was a kid. You know, the Educated Youth Centers back then were a melting pot. Everyone had different tastes, so she learned Sichuan cuisine, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. Lu Chongjing finally shut up, secretly regretting his behavior. After such a great meal, who knows if he'd get another invite. The interview opportunity thrilled Sui. On the day of the interview, she went to the canteen early to wait. The canteen was only hiring 3 people, but over 30 people showed up. Once everyone arrived, the first round of inspections began, mostly focused on personal hygiene and whether people looked clean and presentable. Sui, who always took pride in her cleanliness, easily passed. She figured everyone would make an effort, but nearly a third of the candidates were cut after the first round. During the second round, the girl behind Sui suddenly tapped her on the shoulder. Hey, I'm Su Xiaoqin, what's your name? Sui smiled. I'm Sui. Su Xiaoqin grinned. You're pretty, and your name's nice too. I just got here. I live in the country nearby. My brother hooked me up with this, he's a soldier here. Sui thought she seemed like a cheerful and kind girl. She felt a little warmer towards her. Chapter 28 Canteen Assessment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Feeling Suyi's excitement, the woman immediately started chatting about the inspection. Seriously, if you knew you had an interview, why didn't you clean up beforehand? I saw some people in line with long fingernails. Ugh, never mind, don't want to jinx myself. Sui smiled, and soon it was their turn. The second interview focused on basic cafeteria-related knowledge. Sui answered easily. After the second round, only about 10 people were left, and the last round was a cooking test. The dish, hot and sour shredded potatoes. Su Xiaoqin looked at Sui nervously. I'm not much of a cook, but I'm good with a knife. I was hoping to get a job prepping veggies, but now I have to cook too. Sui reassured her, don't sweat it. Your knife skills will help. Just remember to soak the potato shreds in water. Su Xiaoqin nodded, thanks for the reminder. I would have forgotten in my panic. Seeing how sincere she was, Sui felt a little awkward and guilty. She realized she hadn't been around many people like this. Most people approached her with an agenda. It made her automatically guarded around everyone. Like Su Xiaoqin, Sui hoped she'd get the job and they could work together, but they were still competing, and she couldn't give away all her secrets. Plus, they just met. She didn't know this woman. The trick to hot and sour potatoes is preventing them from sticking. Soaking is one way, but blanching is better. Blanched potatoes won't stick and they'll be crispy, but soaking should be good enough. As the contestants prepped, people started arriving for lunch. Some heard about the interviews and came to watch. Among them were Bai Ruolin and her friend. She'd overheard that Sui was interviewing. Without a word, she grabbed her friend and rushed over. The friend saw Sui and was surprised. Is that really her? What's she doing here? Bai Ruolin pushed her way through the crowd and said casually, she must have passed the first round. She couldn't have snuck in. The friend had heard Bai Ruolin complain about Sui before and already disliked her. Seeing her at the last stage, she spoke up. First, she's an outsider who won't leave the compound, and now she's trying to steal someone's job. How shameless can you be? Bai Ruolin quickly pulled her friend back. Don't say that. If she gets a real job, I'll be happy for her. Then she won't have to squat at someone else's house. But she's so skinny, I don't know if she can handle this. The crowd agreed. Some knew the two didn't get along and found her nice words funny, but everyone loves drama, and the more there was, the more interesting it got. Sui didn't even blink at the commotion. She cut the potatoes into even, thin strips. Seeing that she wasn't fazed, Bai Ruolin felt like she'd punched a pillow. Lost in thought, she was suddenly pulled away by Qin Yunfeng. Ruolin, what are you doing here? Bai Ruolin shrugged. Just got here. I saw the crowd and came to watch. Qin Yunfeng knew Sui was interviewing and came to see for himself, but he'd seen Bai Ruolin and her friends making fun of Sui, so he pulled her away. Ruolin, have you forgotten what you promised? Bai Ruolin's smile faltered. Of course not. I didn't say anything, Qin. I'm worried the food will go downhill if she gets the job. Qin Yunfeng considered this. Don't worry. Suyi's a good cook. It won't be bad. Bai Ruolin looked at him in disbelief, lowered her eyes, and said, Qin, have you thought about this? If Sui works here, we'll see her every day, with all these people around. It's not good for us. Qin Yunfeng paused, realizing she had a point. He pushed his way forward and glared at Sui. Seeing her smiling calmly in front of everyone, he scoffed to himself. She loved showing off. Didn't she notice all the guys staring? Didn't she care? He remembered Sui being different. Back then, she'd blush when he said a word to her. Now, she was fine with being stared at by strangers. Sui ignored everyone. She finished her dish quickly. She rinsed the potatoes and blanched them, fried them in hot oil to bring out the chili flavor, then added bell peppers, stir-fried everything on high heat, seasoned it, and plated it quickly. Turning around, she saw Qin Yunfeng and Bai Ruolin. She frowned. Move. The two senior chefs would judge. One, Mr. Wang, was middle-aged and in charge of the kitchen. The other, Mr. Ma, was older. It was said he taught every chef in the cafeteria. Though he was the most senior, he was old and didn't interfere much. Mr. Wang made most decisions. Suyi's potatoes were uniform and bright. Even before tasting, the sour, spicy aroma was appetizing. After tasting, Mr. Ma gave it high marks, as good as what we make. Mr. Wang disagreed, it's just shredded potatoes. Cooking for a crowd is different. And she's so small. I doubt she can handle the kitchen work. He was influenced by the gossip he'd overheard. Cooking skills were important, but being reliable and drama-free was essential. Less trouble was better. What do you think, Mr. Ma? Mr. Ma admired Sui and thought her energy reminded him of his younger self, and despite being small, she was confident when flipping the wok, but he couldn't say much. He looked at Sui. Young lady, working in the cafeteria is tough. Are you sure you can handle it? Chapter 29, an open book test specially arranged for her. You are listening at novelful.audio. Sui shot Master Ma a grateful look, knowing he was trying to get her a chance. Before she could even speak, Qin Yinfeng jumped in. I don't think she's right for the job, either. Being the army cook is a huge responsibility. She's only 20 years old, how can she handle something that important? Sui, who was about to reply, thought, here we go again. Why is he always around? Sui stared at him, speechless. Deputy Company Commander Qin, I didn't realize you were on the interview panel. Qin Yinfeng pursed his lips. Well, no. So, what makes you think you can say something like that? It couldn't be that you're just trying to be nice, is it? Qin Yinfeng had been about to say exactly that, but she'd called him out on it. Bai Ruolin glared at Qin Yinfeng, signaling him to drop it. Sui gave them both a cold look. Keep your partner in line, would you? No one wants to hear your drama in the cafeteria. Bai Ruolin shot Sui an angry look, but she was also worried that word of their little scene would get back to Captain Zhou. She quickly pulled Qin Yinfeng away. After they left, Sui felt like she could breathe again. Even though standing up to them felt good, she might have given the chefs the impression that she was trouble, but she didn't regret it. She just couldn't stand that couple. She wasn't about to let them get away with anything. Sui calmed herself down and turned back to the chefs. I am young, it's true, but I've been doing farm work since I was a kid. I even worked in the cafeteria at our brigade's youth center for years. Hard work doesn't scare me. You don't have to worry about that. Sui's words gave them pause. Master Ma, especially, really didn't want to pass up on such a promising candidate as the two of them were considering. Xie Xiaojun burst in. Master Ma, Chef Wang, Captain Zhou wants you to know that we have a VIP coming for lunch today. A VIP? Is it the overseas Chinese expert who just returned? Exactly. Captain Zhou wants to know who can cook authentic Sichuan cuisine. The expert grew up in Sichuan and wants some home cooking. Chef Wang started to panic. We're all locals here. How would we know how to make real Sichuan food? Besides, he continued, Captain Zhou said last time we weren't needed for the reception. Is he changing his mind? Xie Xiaojun gave him a helpless look. How would I know? Just hurry up and get ready. They'll be here soon. With that, Xie Xiaojun turned and left. Chef Wang, in a frenzy, ran to the kitchen to ask everyone individually. Master Ma, usually unflappable, was also getting worried. Quick, bring me the recipe book from my desk in the office. We need to look at it and get to work. Sui stood silently to the side, thinking, what? Zhou Jinchuan had asked her to cook Sichuan cuisine the night before last. And now, the overseas Chinese guest he's bringing wants to eat Sichuan cuisine. Could Zhou Jinchuan have set this up as an open book test? And this guy claimed he never used connections. Whatever was going on, Sui knew she had to jump on this opportunity if she wanted the job, so she quickly spoke up. Master Ma, I can cook Sichuan cuisine. Can I give it a shot? As soon as Sui spoke, everyone, including Chef Wang and the others in the kitchen, looked over. You can cook Sichuan food? Are you from Sichuan? No, but I learned from some of the educated youth who came from there. Master Ma nodded immediately. Okay, get to it. And do a good job. Sui nodded and turned to Su Xiaoqin, who was standing nearby. Xiaoqin, will you give me a hand? Su Xiaoqin immediately ran over, excited. Sure. Seeing this, Chef Wang hurried over. Master Ma, is she up to this? We're hosting a VIP. We can't afford to mess this up. Master Ma gave him a look, wondering what his problem was. Was he still trying to get back at her for saying she was a better cook? He really was petty. Chef Wang, if you don't trust her, why don't you cook a few dishes, too? That way, if hers aren't any good, we'll still have something to serve. If you're as experienced as you say, I'm sure you can whip up a few Sichuan dishes, right? Chef Wang pursed his lips, wanting to say that he'd never cooked any Sichuan cuisine in his life, but he didn't want to lose face in front of everyone, so he nodded. It's just a matter of adding more chili peppers. I can handle that. Master Ma nodded and quickly told everyone to get back to work. Everyone, calm down. Those who need to eat, eat. The overseas Chinese will be here any minute. It's embarrassing to act like this. Everyone respected Master Ma, so they immediately got moving. Sui took Su Xiaoqin to the kitchen and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that they had everything she needed. Time was tight. She'd just made some of these dishes the other day, so she figured she'd make those again, but this time, she'd go easy on the chili peppers. After all, the VIP had lived abroad for decades and might not be able to handle the spice. Plus, when Zhou Jinchuan had left last time, he told her specifically to use less chili pepper, probably giving her a hint. Sui grabbed a basket of the vegetables she needed, turned, and handed them to Su Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin, help me wash these first. We'll work together. Su Xiaoqin knew she was trying to give her a chance to shine and was very grateful. She quickly washed and cut everything according to Sui's instructions. Since she'd done it all recently, Sui had all the steps fresh in her mind. She whipped up 4 dishes in no time. Master Ma, I'm done. Do you want to taste them first? Master Ma had been watching from the side and could see that her movements were smooth and practiced. She clearly knew what she was doing. Just looking at the food, he knew it would be delicious, so why taste it? No need. Captain Zhou just arrived with the VIP. Take it over there now. Sui put the dishes on a tray and asked Su Xiaoqin to help her carry it. Chef Wang immediately ran over. Master Ma, is her food any good? Shouldn't we wait for me? Chef Wang stopped mid-sentence. So that's what Sichuan cuisine looked like. He glanced at the food in his pot and was speechless. Master Ma just stared at him. Wait for you. We'll be waiting all day. The VIP is starving. Chef Wang gave a nervous smile and quickly grabbed a plate. Then Comrade Su and I will take it over together. Wouldn't want her to offend the VIP because she's young and inexperienced. With that, he grabbed a plate and headed out before anyone could react. Sui smirked and curled her lips, then followed with the other 2 dishes. Chapter 30. Didn't I embarrass you? You are listening at novelful.audio. Zhou Jinchuan and the overseas Chinese expert were tucked away in a corner of the cafeteria. Sui spotted him from across the room. She usually saw him at his house. Seeing him out in public was a surprise. From this distance, she had to admit, Zhou Jinchuan was a catch, tall, handsome, with a commanding presence. He just sat down, and suddenly that corner looked a whole lot better, compared to Political Commissar Wang, who was currently next to her. Forget about it. No comparison. Meanwhile, the gray-haired overseas Chinese gentleman next to Zhou Jinchuan looked like he had plenty of pep and a refined air about him, at his age, still wanting to come back and contribute to his country. You couldn't help but admire that. Chef Wang, all excited, brought the dish over with a few over-the-top comments. Anyone would have thought he'd cooked it himself. Without a word, Sui quickly grabbed the 2 dishes from his hands. She backed away quietly. Chef Wang, realizing he was intruding, felt a little foolish and hustled back to the kitchen. Zhou Jinchuan tasted the food and nodded approvingly. Mr. Mo, this is excellent. You've got to try it. Mr. Mo had been eyeing the dishes for a while. The color, the aroma, it was exactly like the food he remembered from childhood. He immediately scooped up a spoonful of mapo tofu. After a moment, he silently dug into the rice with a few more spoonfuls. Political Commissar Wang was about to ask if he didn't like it, but Zhou Jinchuan gave him a look that stopped him. Mr. Mo's eyes were red. It wasn't dislike, he was overcome with emotion. After eating a bit, Mr. Mo put down his bowl and said with emotion, "Captain Zhou, thank you. If you hadn't suggested eating in the cafeteria today, I might never have tasted such good Sichuan food again. This flavor, these memories. I've been searching for it for decades. Could I meet the chef?" Zhou Jinchuan nodded and waved toward the kitchen. Chef Wang, who'd been glued to the scene, instantly hurried over. "Captain Zhou, how's the food?" Zhou Jinchuan nodded. "Excellent. Go get the chef. Mr. Mo wants to meet him." Chef Wang almost blurted out that he'd made it, but knew better than to try and fake it. He quickly backpedaled. "I'm in charge of the kitchen here. You can ask me anything. This new chef is a greenhorn. Might say something to offend you." Zhou Jinchuan gave him a displeased look and repeated, "Get the chef." Chef Wang couldn't stand up to Zhou Jinchuan's intensity and quickly retreated. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. A newbie like her, winning over someone important on her very first day. He'd wanted to be the star, and she'd sent him packing. Master Ma saw what was happening and understood the situation. He quickly told Sui, "Go on out there. I think they want to see you." Sui nodded, took off her apron, and calmly walked over. Mr. Mo looked at the young woman beside him in surprise. "You made these dishes? Are you from Sichuan province?" He'd been expecting someone older, otherwise, how could they have mastered such complex cooking skills? Sui wasn't intimidated. She smiled. "I did. But I'm not from Sichuan. I learned from some educated youths who came to our brigade from Sichuan a few years ago." Mr. Mo nodded. "Young lady, this food is incredible. To be honest, the mapo tofu my mother made when I was a boy tasted just like this. She passed away, and I haven't had anything like it in decades." Sui was touched. "Sir, it's amazing you still remember the taste of home after so many years abroad. I'm honored I could, even accidentally, help ease your homesickness." Mr. Mo nodded, choked up. "You're right. I've traveled the world, but my heart never left home. It's time I came back and did what I could for my country." Sui smiled sweetly. "Mr. Mo, I'll do my best. I may not be much, but I know my way around a kitchen. If you're ever craving something from home, just let me know." "I will. Absolutely." Mr. Mo turned to Zhou Jinchuan. "While I'm here, could this young woman bring me my meals?" Zhou Jinchuan nodded readily. "Of course. Mr. Mo, enjoy your food while it's hot. I'll take care of the details." He led Sui back to the kitchen. On the way, Sui couldn't help asking, "Captain Zhou, did I mess things up?" Zhou Jinchuan barely smiled. "Not bad. He's not giving much away." Zhou Jinchuan, once they were in the kitchen, Zhou Jinchuan immediately relayed Mr. Mo's request. "During this time, Comrade Su will be responsible for Mr. Mo's lunch and dinner. Arrange for her to deliver the food directly to his office. Mr. Mo is here to help us. This is a major deal. Everyone needs to be on their toes to make sure there are no mistakes. If you have any questions or needs, report directly to me." Master Ma nodded. "No problem. Comrade Su will just focus on those 2 meals. Let us know if you need anything." Chef Wang grumbled, "But Comrade Su isn't even officially working in our kitchen yet." Zhou Jinchuan shot him a look. "Should I tell Mr. Mo you'll take over, then?" Chef Wang cleared his throat. "Never mind." Zhou Jinchuan glanced at Sui and then left. After everyone else cleared out, the kitchen buzzed with gossip. Master Ma quickly waved his hand. "It's getting late. Let's announce the selection results, and everyone else can get back to work." Sui was a shoo-in. Chef Wang admitted, though grudgingly. Also, a young man named Zhang Tianhua, who'd shown promise in the cooking competition, was admitted as well, and Su Xiaoqin, who'd been a great help to Su Yi, had caught Master Ma's eye. When Su Xiaoqin heard she'd gotten in, she hugged Su Yi's arm. "We get to work together," Su Yi smiled and nodded. After everyone else had left, Chef Wang was still fuming. "I heard someone say that Comrade Su and Captain Zhou already knew each other. Maybe this was all set up beforehand." Su Yi smiled calmly. "Chef Wang, you give me too much credit. Even if I knew in advance, it'd take me a year or two to learn Sichuan cuisine this well." Su Xiaoqin chimed in. "Opportunities are for those who are prepared." Chef Wang glared at her. "It's just a couple of dishes. Maybe Mr. Mo's old, and his taste buds aren't what they used to be." Hearing him trash-talking the expert in public, Master Ma shot him a warning look. "You need to watch what you say." Su Yi tried to smooth things over. "I'm worried I didn't do a good job with some of the dishes I made." "Master Ma, Chef Wang, would you mind helping me taste them?" Master Ma nodded. "All right, Chef Wang, bring out the dishes. We'll all eat together." Chef Wang.